an American and a Canadian do a deep dive.
Ooh, good intro.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Andor-tastic episode of Empire Radio. I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Brady.
And we are back with Andor, Season 1, Episode 6, The Eye.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a special guest, which you just heard, Brady, who is from the Discord. And you've often heard voicemails from him. And he's one of the stars of the VCU, if you have been with us for a while. So he's going to be joining tonight because Drew is out of town. Unfortunately, he had another death in his family, and so he had to go out of town for that. So he wishes he could be here. Now, he did send me a video, which if you're watching on the live stream right now, you're not going to be able to see or hear. So we're just going to quick pause for a couple seconds, and then with post-production, movie magic, the video is going to pop up, him giving his thoughts for 2 minutes, and then we'll be back. So here's a little message from Drew.
What's up, guys? Drew here. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be on this week's episode of Empire Radio due to the fact that I had an unfortunate death in the family, so I'm not able to be on this week's episode of Andor Breakdown, episode 6. I know I really wanted to be on this one. This was the big heist episode, and I'm kind of bummed I'm not able to be there. But I know that Jeremiah and the special guest is going to hold down the fort, so I'm excited to listen to you guys, to the breakdown like you guys are. So with that, I'm going to give my little brief thought really quick. I love the episode. I thought it was amazing. The visual effects were out of this world. I loved the Starlight event, the event that happened. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed seeing the Andor escape with the ship, and the visual effects I thought were just amazing. So I love that part. The heist, it kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time, which I enjoyed. I was just sitting there waiting for it to mess up, and things did mess up throughout it, but they still got it done. But you were just in anticipation for it the entire time, and they pulled it off so well with making you feel like something was going to happen. And when things did, you're like, what? And they still figured it out, and I love that part of it. Also, with that, Jeremiah kind of called it last week. It's really sad, but he called it. He said everyone's going to die. Pretty much everyone died except for the one girl, and then the one girl they left behind, but I don't think she's going to make it because they all know that she was holding them all up with a gun, so I don't think she's going to make it. I don't know how that's going to happen. So, I don't know. I really loved the episode, and I'm excited to see what happens next week with Andor trying to escape, trying to make sure that money gets to the right hands. And I really love the whole aspect that one guy portrayed Andor, and he was just in it for the money. You kind of called it. He was kind of sneaky. Didn't really like him the whole time. And I liked that. That was good. And I'm excited for the one guy that we didn't even see, Jeremiah's favorite character. We didn't see him. We had no idea what he was doing this week. But he was probably sitting there eating cereal, because that's pretty much all he does, is have his mom make him cereal. So I'm excited to see what he does next week. Maybe we can see him eat more cereal. But I will be on next week for episode 7 with a normal watch party too, so make sure you guys tune in for that as well. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll give it back to Jeremiah. You guys stay tuned, and may the force be with you. Bye.
All right. We're back. All right. So thank you, Drew, for that and your thoughts. He really loved the episode. It was everything he ever wanted. He loved the visuals and the cinematography and all that stuff. So that's good to hear. So Brady, we'll just jump right into it like we always do. What were your overall thoughts of this episode, The Eye?
Oh, honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. I knew it was kind of going to ramp up this week just because of all the buildup we've seen in the past 5 episodes, but this just blew everything I expected out of the waters. I would give it a 9 out of 10. And the only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because I would have liked to have seen more of the Senate scenes and some more scenes with Luthen. But I'm not even disappointed because I thought they ended it phenomenally with those two characters. So 9 out of 10, fantastic episode. Probably one of my favorite Disney Star Wars pieces of media. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I absolutely love this episode. I would say it's a 10 out of 10. The pacing was great. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time because at any moment, if their plan didn't work, it would just fall apart. And so, like, every moment, you're just hoping nothing went wrong because it's Star Wars. It's in the middle of a war basically, and you just expect everything to go wrong. So,
Yeah.
it their plan worked. It wasn't flawless on their end, but I really liked everything. I really like the Donnie people, them being like, I knew they were gonna be in the episode, but like I didn't think we were gonna see them the way we saw them, like just in the midst of their celebration. I kind of just thought we were gonna like see it from the Imperial eyes per se, like we're just kind of watching them from a distance. But
Yeah.
I just really love this episode, and it's like I think I agree with you that this is like one of the best Disney era like single pieces. Like it's up there with, you know, some of the episodes from The Mandalorian and stuff like that are just like perfect in every way. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I really liked, I really
no,
liked seeing the Donnie people as well. I thought it was, I can dive into that a little later, but I definitely saw some kind of parallels between that and our own world. And it was really interesting to see a lot of our history kind of incorporated into
yeah,
the episode.
because like their attire that like kind of reminded me of like a mix between like Mongolian, North China type wear, maybe like Northern Russian type of like attire. Did you recognize that kind of like,
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
I
Or
I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking more because a lot of we get a lot of education about our indigenous peoples in Canada. So I was thinking it was more of a kind of a parallel between the empires, this big colonial power, and the indigenous peoples, and them starting off having a good relationship, and then it kind of fractured as time went on because you heard their plans of what they were going to do to
right,
the Donnie, and that's kind of what I saw. I didn't really see the visual similarities, but I definitely saw the comparison when it came to historically. And
right, definitely.
yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about colonialism in Star Wars. This not just in this show, but in anything in Star Wars. So
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I really liked their attire, and definitely look forward to people doing cosplay of the Donnie people.
That'll be sick.
It's just cool, but it'd be really hot though to wear that stuff like
Yeah.
at Comic-Con in the summer or something like that. So
True.
definitely if you go to a winter con, that'd be better to have.
Yeah. 100%.
But we can probably just start jumping in scene by scene with this. So just opens up. It seems like it's the morning of, like, you know, they went to bed the night before and now they're ready to start the mission. I thought they were gonna kind of sneak in the middle of the night somehow. So like we didn't really see exactly how they got on set, kind of whatever you want to call it, but like it was in the morning, kind of just getting ready for that. And so we had another great conversation from Nemec, who I
Oh,
really love. He's just a really cool character. And he was kind of talking more about his philosophy of things because he's writing that manifesto, his kind of philosophy of his understanding of the empire and the galaxy and how a rebellion should work.
yeah.
And he had a really interesting kind of like idea of, is it okay to hire mercenaries in rebellion work? because they now see Cassian as a hired mercenary to do part of this mission. And so he's like, I think we could do it. They're like a tool. Like a tool is used no different than a weapon, no different than like a ship or something. And a mercenary is a tool. And Nemec thought that he's kind of pondering, this is a good idea. What do you think about the mercenary for hire?
I thought that was a really interesting idea, and I also thought that this conversation was fascinating. Like personally, I looked at Nemec and I saw a lot of parallels between him and myself. You know, he's young. He really enjoys writing. I like creative writing as well. He has a lot of faith in a cause, and I saw a lot of parallels between him and myself, and especially when he said, even though I have this faith, this belief, I still can't sleep. I'm still worried. Yet you, Cassian, you don't believe in anything, but you sleep like a rock. That was really interesting, and I thought that it really showed that even though Cassian's kind of got this hard, rough past, he's more callous, whereas Nemec is youthful and idealistic, and it's a very good contrast. And I think Nemec's a good foil to Cassian. You know, the youth versus age and the optimism versus cynicism. It was a fantastic conversation, and I loved every bit of it. Thought it was a great opener to the episode.
Right. And it was kind of like he had Nemec had his theories about how the Empire works, but then, with Andor's experience and wisdom for fighting the Empire just by himself, he kind of corrects him in a sense, and he's like, because Nemec is like, they're gonna learn about it's like how we adapt to them, and it's gonna like kind of like change how it's a back and forth. But Andor was like, no, they don't care about learning because they don't care about you.
Yeah.
They'll just continue to do the same thing, and they'll just oppress, and they're not going to learn. And Nemec was like, well, we just got to, look at the status quo and just the way things are and just be thankful for what we got. And I really liked how Andor got in is really close. And he's like, what do you think I'm thankful for? I'm not thankful for anything. And that was like, shocked him. Like, whoa, like, holy smokes. So that was
Yeah.
just a really good opening. And just that contrast I really liked.
And another thing too, this whole episode, especially this conversation, did a great job of setting the Empire up as this massive machine, so to speak. It's this kind of immovable object that the protagonists have no real hope of taking on, because no matter what they do, it's still going to be there and it's still going to destroy them. And even the individuals in the Empire, I saw Drew just pop in there for a
Yeah,
second.
I saw that too.
Even the individuals in the Empire, they still feel oppressed in a sense by this massive machination and restricted by what they can do. And so it was really interesting to see in this conversation that it's just this machine that's going to keep on going no matter what the protagonists do.
Right. Yeah, and we in the next scene after the opener, like we see the Donnies for the first time, but we also have great commentary from kind of like new characters that I forgot to write down the guy's name. The main guy, it's a weird name.
I just was that the commandant of the
the
base?
commandant.
Yeah,
Something Horn, something Young Horn, or
I don't remember either.
But yeah, he was talking with the engineer that was referenced that was going to come, and so the engineer is there to assess the situation of the planet, because was the last episode like we're going to turn this whole thing into an airfield, and so the engineer is there specifically to see, is this doable to change this land into an airfield. So we were people were like, oh, is it Director Krennic? Is it Galen Urso? Is it like someone that we know? But like, I'm happy that it wasn't someone that we know.
Me too.
Right. And so, but the commandant, he kind of gives a commentary on their process with the Donnie people. And it's like, they don't know what to do with options because they're so used to tradition and doing it one way for thousands of years, seemingly, that the way that the Empire manipulates them is to give them so many options on what they can do that they forget like what they want, and they just choose something the Empire gave them as an option, and they just kind of forget that they're not really getting anything in return. And I thought that was very, very interesting. Did you read the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy?
Yeah, I did.
So, do you know who the Donnie reminded me of?
Who's that?
The Garwian people.
Oh, I'm a
Be-
little rusty. I haven't
so,
listened in a while.
so it's from the first book, and they're the people that are consumed with seeing every perspective before they make a decision.
Okay, yeah.
And so, like, even though they're not the same, it's like kind of like the Garwians want as many options as possible for them to make the best choice. But the Donnie people, like when they're given so many choices, they collapse. So it's kind of like the opposite of the Garwians, but it just reminded me of them like having so many options. And I'm almost done with the Ascendancy trilogy. I'm like
Okay.
2/3 of the way through the third book. So
It's a fantastic trilogy.
yep, getting into it. So it's fun, but stay tuned for post Andor when we do the Ascendancy trilogy breakdown. We'll be doing 2 weeks on that. So
That'll
stay
be fun.
tuned. Yep, stay tuned for that. Get a refresher on all the content.
I've got the Alliances book right up there, and I think I've got the newest one on Audible, The Greater Good. So
Cool.
yeah.
But yeah, so I really like. So we kind of let's talk about the whole more of the Donnie stuff, just like kind of like as a chunk, just so we don't have to go back and forth. But
All right.
So yeah, the Donnie people, they take a 10-day trek from where they're staying in the lowlands to walk up to the sacred site here in the highlands. And what the Empire did to kind of like comfort their trip was to like put like stop points where they can have food and places to stay and whatnot, just to kind of like make it look like the Empire cares about their well-being. They even offered them a shuttle ride, even though they knew they would say no. So they come and arrive, and they get escorted to. Once they get close enough, they get escorted by troopers. They're not stormtroopers. I don't even know what you call these.
They weren't really mud troopers either. They were just
No, they're. I don't know if they're just
dudes.
officers. I don't even know if they want to call them that, but
I think the guys in charge, so like the commandant and Captain Gorn and the engineer, those guys were the officers. I think these guys were more, I don't know, I haven't really seen them before, but probably just the Emperor's foot soldiers, I guess.
yeah. I don't know if they. Hopefully, we'll get a name from them eventually. But yeah, so they just once the Donnie people get close enough, these trooper guys, they escort them to the site. And so they meet Gorn right kind of when they get to this site basically, and Gorn lets them in, and they go down to the site where there's a little like temple thing, and they kind of do like a ceremony like with the commandant and some of the other higher ups about like they traded goat skins for a 3-year lease, which is kind of a terrible deal if you ask me. And go, were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say, to me, I know that kind of reminds me of some of the, again, a lot of the, in Canada, we have these treaties with the Indigenous people where the government and the Indigenous people have a treaty and they get land and certain rights as Indigenous people. And so, but because of the different perspectives, the Europeans and the Indigenous people saw it very differently. And there was some kind of conflict about that. And this whole scene, again, especially with the fur trade, because that was a big thing in Canadian history as well, was the fur trade companies like Hudson's Bay Company. It was a huge thing. They would trade furs for a lot of different stuff with the Indigenous people, and then they'd take it back and manufacture it to luxury goods. So it really, again, reminded me of that history, the colonialism. and how that was kind of symbolized in this episode between the Empire and the Donnie people. Similar deal, you know, they had trade deals and they did all this stuff and eventually kind of manipulated them into thinking a certain way. And so it was really interesting to see that perspective shown in this episode and with those people. It was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and but we know from what was said earlier that this treaty was an imperial option that they were given, and it wasn't
Mhm.
something that the Donnie people wanted. Because what I noticed was when the commandant gives the fur to the chief of the tribe, like he just kind of grabs it and like passes it back without even like caring. It seemed like, and just
Mm.
took the other one from a woman and just gave it to him. Like you could tell the chief was like, I don't care about this.
And then they just went and burned it in the fire later, right?
Yeah.
So
So like you could tell that the Donnie people did not like this lease agreement, 3-year lease, just trade of a single fur, like, but like they're
yeah,
kind of forced into it. Um,
it was it was either that to me or this whole thing was that they didn't really care about the fur, but they kind of thought that the Empire was trying to be their friends. And so they wanted to have that friendship with the Empire. And they didn't really care about the fur. It was more the symbolism behind it, you know?
right, because um, they have their own language, which was kind of cool. When
Yeah.
Gorn he was able to speak their language. He learned their language because I'm assuming maybe it's because he fell in love with a local that we learned from last
Mm,
episode, that he was able to learn their language through that. And so Gorn was a contact that they knew, and so he translated. And like the first thing that he translates when they first meet is like something like, "Hopefully the eye will shed good into you
yeah.
guys," or something like that, or see good in you. And then when the commandant and everyone goes down to the temple, he's like, "Peace to those who come in peace."
Yeah.
Um, and so it's, yeah, like I think the chief wants there to be peace, but he also feels almost powerless, like he can't do anything. Um, and he has a line like, was something about the ghosts of our ancestors have long memories or something like that. And
Yeah.
Gorn does not translate that. He just says, "We hope you have a good time," basically, with the show. So like,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it seemed like the chief knew English as well, because when he didn't translate it properly, the chief looked at him like, "That's not what I said."
It might have been like he understood but couldn't really speak basic. Like he'd been exposed to a lot of the Imperials, so he got the gist of it,
Right.
but didn't really speak it himself.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention this chief guy looks like Bryan Cranston, like an old Bryan Cranston with a beard. Like the whole episode, I was like, "This is Walter White." Like,
I
he
didn't
what?
I didn't I didn't see that. Maybe it's just because he had hair and no
Maybe,
glasses.
but I don't know. I just the whole time I was like, when it was like dark on his face, I was like, "This is Bryan Cranston." Um, but yeah, so they do that ceremony, and that's it. And
Yeah.
then throughout the episode, it goes back and forth between what the Donnie people are doing and then everything else in the episode. So the Donnie people, they're just getting ready for the Eye, this celestial event, and they kind of throw more things onto the fire in this temple,
Oh, yeah.
um,
I
like
love oh, sorry.
you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say I loved the fire imagery both in this episode and the last one, because in the last one, they had that little fire together, and then they were throwing wood on it and saying, "Long live the rebellion," and that fire was just going up in flames, and I thought that was kind of foreshadowing that their little mission would go a little bit awry. And in this episode, as the mission progressed, the fire kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the chanting got louder. So it really complemented the mission very well. It was showing that the mission was going sour, and then the fire was also getting bigger. And so it was kind of like the mission was going up in flames, but then they still escaped, sort of.
Yeah,
But
yeah, because
I like the dual imagery.
yeah,
It was
and
pretty cool.
yeah. So then they were like, some of the stuff that they were throwing on the fire was something that made bright sparks and flashes, just like
Mm.
the celestial event did. So it's kind of like them preparing for that. And I really like that they had like singing and dancing to like usher in this event. And they at the end when it was done, like they're very emotional. Like some were crying, and everyone was just in awe of what they saw, and they don't like. It was earlier in the episode. They said like this is their last time they're going to see this, and they don't even know that
Yeah.
this is their last time. But that was a really like. I wish it wasn't broken up. Like I wish we could have saw like a 5 minute just like
Oh,
thing of them doing all that.
it was gorgeous, and the visual when you saw it in the sky was so pretty. I thought that was amazing. Even on my little computer screen, I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible."
yeah, definitely. So, yep.
It
So
it
that's go ahead.
oh yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Northern Lights,
Oh
honestly.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're in Canada. You see the Northern Lights probably like every night, but
Oh no, not where I'm from.
no, oh,
No,
because
I live in the city, so
right. So like I'm not too far from Canada. I'm in Minnesota, so I border Canada, but like I'm still 3-4 hours south of where we even get a chance to see the Northern Lights.
mm,
And so like I've never seen them, but um, you gotta go further north into Canada to see them better.
yeah.
But
Because I know
um,
if you go just outside of the city on some nights, because we're pretty much right on the edge, there's just this. It looks really pretty on some nights. You can really see it even in the city, but it isn't too often where I'm from.
okay,
Yeah,
interesting. But yeah, so this is continue on. So that's like the Donnie stuff. So we don't gotta jump on them too much anymore for this episode. But I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. But
yeah,
um, they so in 2 episodes ago, in episode 4, we're introduced to the navigation device that Nemec has, like a really old school thing. It's all mechanical.
mm,
And we're in this next scene here. We're introduced to what seems to be like a really old radio system that they got their hands on, which is what they're going to be what they used in this episode to communicate with each other. The girls had their radio, and then Terriman had the radio in his ear, and
yeah.
so
That was really cool. I liked that they used the old fashioned radios because it kind of showed it continued to show that they're the big underdogs and they're taking on this giant machine, the Empire that has everything they could possibly imagine, and then they've just got these little tiny radios that will
yeah,
last. Kind of a
yeah,
symbol for them, because they're gonna last even if they don't necessarily last the mission. The dream still lives on. And
right,
Nemec's journal still lives on, his manifesto.
right. And so I thought it was cool how they had to like manually try like every system like setting until they actually connected with the other people, which
Yeah,
which is very old school, trying to um, test every like transmission or like frequency or whatever. So that was kind of cool that they kind of had, and they said that when they knock out the comms, the Imperial comms are going to go down, but theirs is going to be when it's working. I was like, dang, this is pretty cool to see this plan come out, because at this whole time we have no idea what any of the plan is other
yeah,
than steal the money. So it's like we're actually seeing step by step how it's all coming together. Um,
yeah,
so that was cool. We then learned that when they're on their way to the site, uh, Terriman is kind of like barking orders to everyone, and Cassian's like, man, he's like a leader, like he knows what he's barking out, and like Skeen is like, well, he was once a stormtrooper. Like, oh, cool. Like I didn't guess that because I don't going back. We don't have any story from him,
yeah.
so like learning that was pretty cool. And then he's like, well, you should have been here when Cinta found out that he was a stormtrooper because stormtroopers killed her entire family.
Yeah, that was
I
that was sad.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I kind of wish we could have saw a flashback of that of Cinta freaking out on him,
Mhm.
but we didn't. But I don't know. I thought that was a cool scene. Um, and then so after this, I was really confused at first. I don't know if you caught it, but like when we got that first like celestial
Oh,
like comment go through, like I didn't know what that was. I didn't even make that connection until like they said it in the show. But like I thought it was like a mortar shell, something was shot, like there was an attack or something. I don't know. realize that it was part of the celestial event when it first happened?
I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe it is, but then when more of them started coming, I was like, okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was super confused at first, but I thought it was just cool how it like it's starting. Like just like this mission is starting, the celestial event is starting just a little bit at a time. And so it was a lot more intense than I thought it was gonna be. Because I like the way Nemec described it originally, I thought it was more like dust, like going through the atmosphere that was turning. So I didn't realize it was gonna be like huge, like meteor comet type things. So I was like, dang, this is gonna be intense when the whole sky is full of them. But yeah, so
Yeah,
yep,
it was really cool. I liked that. And it got more intense as the mission went on too, which was really cool.
yeah. And so when this is happening, the guys finally kind of get into their position to join with the Donnies as they come in, and Terriman says like that.
Hey,
Hi,
Brady,
Kaden.
quiet.
Oh,
I was like,
sorry
knocking.
about that.
I'm like, why can't you hear?
no.
Sorry, am I interrupting something?
Yeah, you are.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I didn't know you were coming in.
I just want to say
Hi.
hi, Brady. Love you, buddy.
Bye. Sorry, that was my roommate last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. But as they're they're on the path waiting for the Donnies to come up, Terriman gives the a detail of how, because what was said earlier in the episode was that a team from the airbase, I believe, was joining part of the escort and security team, and so they're saying, to the people who are normally at this base, they're going to see us as these people that were brought in, but then the people who are brought in from the airbase, they're going to think they were just part of this garrison, and so they're living two lies to two different groups of people. So it's like, you gotta be aware of which group is from which thing, because if you have to talk to them, like, you don't want to blow your cover. So
Yeah, and that kind of confused me for a little bit too. I was like, at the beginning, I'm pretty sure the comms guy who kept popping up, he wasn't from the airbase, but it was kind of like confusing. It looked like he might have been, and yeah, it kept you on your toes.
definitely. So I was just, because when they get to when the Donnie people get to the site and they talk to Gorn, one of the groups of soldiers there sees our rebels and kind of takes a look like, I don't recognize them.
Mm.
And so like I was like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? But then it's like, well, they just gonna assume that it's from the other base. So like it makes sense. But I was like waiting for something to be like, they don't look familiar because I was at the other base, a couple months ago, like I don't recognize you or something. I thought something was gonna happen with that.
Yeah.
But it didn't. So
but it added to that tension too, those throughout the episode too. It was like, oh boy.
Yeah, definitely. And so we finally are then introduced to, I think it just happened a little bit earlier, but in my notes I have it that we finally get the plan for the girls, the women, on what their mission is. So they're on the opposite end of like the water, where they are swimming in underwater, because they have like a little mini, like, I don't even know what you call it, like submarine thing, where they just hold on to it and it just brings them wherever it's pointed. So
it kind of reminded me of episode 1 when they were going to Otagunga and they swam there, and then after they had the bongo to help them get out.
Of course you would make that connection. But yeah, so they sneak in through going through the water, and then when they get through the water, they climb up the ladder to the top of I guess it's the dam, I guess you would say it is.
Yeah.
But there was a brief moment where they're hiding in like a little like stone hut, where a group of soldiers come down, and they thought they were going to get caught, but they just come by and just, I think it implied one guy was taking a leak.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and then they just leave. But like that was a little tense. Like, is this where the plan gets foiled? Are they gonna have to kill 4 guys to keep the plan going? Like,
yeah, and it kind of just showed again that imagery. I thought it was like it just showed that these people having to hide away while this one guy's just taking a leak. It kind of showed that they're just ants to the empire, right? Like they really don't care about them. Even if they had seen them, right, it would have screwed everything up. But it was more the imagery there. It's like, man, these guys are just ants to these guys, to the machine.
Right. And I should go back and look, but I wonder if at that point, if the ladies still had the attire of the Donnies on,
Oh
Be-
yeah.
because if they still had that undercover attire on, they could have, said, "Oh, we're just here for the celestial event," and maybe kind of talked their way out of it.
Yeah.
But I was hoping they could have done something a little bit better with that scene, I thought, but it was still a tense scene either way. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we get some kind of like a humanizing part of the Empire when we meet the Commandant and his family, like in their
Yeah.
quarters. I think this whole episode, it humanizes a lot of the people in the Empire.
Hmm.
I think that's what the show is doing really good at, is humanizing people in the Empire as
Yeah.
not evil, but they're just doing evil things in a sense.
Oh,
Now, obviously, the Commandant, he's, I would say, evil, but like most people are not in like this episode.
it really shows that a lot of these guys are either just wanting to advance their careers, or they just kind of need a job and join the empire because of it. Like later, kind of when they were getting ready for the heist and they were shoving those soldiers around, I thought that none of them resisted. I thought that at least one of them would and say, "Oh, I'm loyal to the cause," but none of them did. They just wanted to get their money's worth and get out of there with their lives, right? Because they don't really care about the cause. It's more just about having a job or advancing their personal careers.
Right. And so um, the Commandant, he's trying to get dressed in his, like, probably his more formal wear,
Yeah.
and his like belt thing doesn't fit. He's like, asks his wife to come over, like, "Hey, who put this in storage? Like, it's all like crammed together, like it's not stretching." And she's like, "Well, maybe you got bigger or something like that." And he was kind of like, "Don't talk to me like that." And then like their son was like, she was helping the son get dressed, but then he's saying like, they're saying like he was feeling sick and had like maybe had a fever, and the father, the Commandant, was just like, "Well, you're always making excuses. Like, I just need you for one day to like be at your best because the engineers here. It's a special event. Blah blah blah." But it's like it kind of seemed to imply that the Commandant was like wanting a good show and a good presentation for engineer because he almost wants to get out of Aldani. Like he wants, if I can pass this test, like I've done a good job for X amount of years, maybe I can get promoted and leave. Because
Yeah.
like his family didn't like being there, his kid didn't like being there. But I don't know why they portrayed the kid being sick. Like I don't
Maybe
know.
maybe it was kind of foreshadowing, just adding to the whole foreshadowing scene where, because later he has that heart attack, right? Maybe it was kind of just to show,
Oh,
oh, his kid's sick. He's gonna get sick later. I don't know.
that, and kind of like his, when he said like, "Hey, come help me with my belt." He's 12 years old. He can dress himself, but his wife is helping him get dressed, like with the
Yeah.
belt. So like, I don't know. Maybe it's something like, yeah, you're right. Probably more foreshadowing, like between like the kid and the father, and like how the kid is seen as like the problem, but the dad is actually the problem, type of thing. Um,
It's kind of like Mon Mothma's family too. It mirrors that
oh,
dynamic a little.
yeah, a little bit. Yep. Um,
Completely different problem though. Mon Mothma's kid's just a brat.
yeah, that too. But yeah, so then we get to um, the scuba girls. I put in my notes scuba girls. They're so they are climbing the wall up the dam, and so it starts out with like three troopers are like running across, like they were put at a wrong post, like they weren't like there's like they didn't tell us we were supposed to move positions or something like that, and like the guy on
Yeah.
top was like, that's not an excuse, hurry, get out. So the girls are like waiting, like just above, like just below the line of sight, basically waiting for these guys to pass so they can climb up there. And so they're able to climb up once those guys go by. And so they let's see, look at my notes. And so they have to get rid of the comms, so they're able to jam the comms with like a little device. I thought,
Yeah.
like that whole thing, like where, because she sets the device on the comm part, and then she just starts running down the path, the walkway on top. Where like the guy could have just turned his head in the booth and like saw her, and then the whole plan would have been ruined. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's interesting that like they didn't have a better plan than that.
I don't know.
I don't think she ran when there was a comet going by. Like I don't think she
They-
planned it that way, but
I think she probably just figured, oh, I'll put this thing on and I'm in the uniform, right? So I'll run away. And if he catches me running, then I'll just say like, oh, I'm just fixing the communications or something along those lines. They needed to get tapped up. So-and-so said so. And then maybe she'd be able to sweet talk her way out of it. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah, maybe she was trying to mimic those guys running.
Yeah. Or she
I
just
don't
got lucky.
I think it was more luck. but yeah, so Gorn is down below with the four guys, or the four guys? Three guys, three other guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people are there? I can't even remember, keep my numbers
Well,
straight.
there was the
Andor, Nemec, Skeen, and Terramin. The four.
yeah, so 4.
And then you have Gorn. So they were kind of like waiting in a waiting pattern down there.
Yeah.
Waiting for the girls to be in position. And so Val and Cinta are on top of the dam, and they're like, Val is freaking out. Like, she's like, this is which seems to be like the hardest part of them getting in position, is belaying down the side of the dam, because they have to belay down in sight of where everybody is, where they could see it. So
yeah.
She's freaking out, and she says the mission's still a go, and they wait for 2 comets to go by, and they belay down while everybody's looking at that. And then they get down, which was, if one person wasn't looking at the comets, like they would have saw them belaying down. And so that was pretty intense, if you ask me.
Yeah, it adds to that tension.
Yeah, so when the plan is a go, then the squad takes the commandant and the engineer and then the commandant's family inside, because they're going to go up to the top tower to have dinner and watch the celestial event. And so then they escort the family up. Lieutenant Gorn tells like some other troopers, hey, you can go down and join the rest of the troops down there to watch the event. And once the family and the guys get inside the facility, that's when, boom, it's go time.
Oh, yeah.
And so Cassian, he's the last one in. And they did say it was the last episode. Once you're in, the last person in locks the door, whatever. So Cassian's the last one in. He pulls the switch. Now, the way he did it, like, so it just happened. Like, I thought he foiled the plan. I thought he was doing his own thing for a second, because like it was just such a surprise, which I guess is supposed to be the point of it. And so, but he locks the door, and then the whole team, they tell the one trooper in there to like put down his gun, and then they surround the family. I was like, okay, this is go time. Like this is how it's gonna go. And so then the engineer, he pulls out a weapon and aims it at Nemec.
Yeah.
And then Andor has his gun at the engineer. And so I saw an interesting video today about this scene, how the show humanizes the Empire here because the engineer is like, let the boy go, which is the commandant's
Oh,
son.
yeah.
And it's like the engineer is trying to save a child.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's just a good guy in a sense. Like he's wants to make sure that the boy, who's probably what, I don't know, 12 or something maybe at the
Yeah.
oldest,
Yeah.
like let him go. And so then there's this tense standoff, and they're like, Andor's like, no one has to die today. Like Andor
I
didn't want to shoot anybody.
I I wonder if the reason that the Imperial wanted the boy to go was because it could have been a more selfish reason too. Like he could have been saying, "Oh, let this guy go because he's been raised in this Imperial family and he'll kind of keep our cause going and he'll teach others about how evil these rebels are and try to promote the cause to the Empire." But I don't know if the writers were thinking that, but it could have been something that was going through his mind as well, if they wanted to make the Empire evil. But I don't think that was their goal here. I think they really wanted to make their Empire into a more positive body, even though it's still pretty bad. They wanted to at least make the people in it look like half decent humans.
Right. And you do bring up a good point, because that kid is now going to see rebels as evil
Yeah.
because their dad, spoiler alert, later in this episode, seemingly dies of a heart attack. I don't know if he dies, but he has what seems like to be a heart attack. So if his dad dies, like he's going to blame rebels for the death of his father.
Yeah.
And sure, it seems like he didn't really have the best relationship with his father, but like as a child, like you're still going to see that, and it's going to cause a hatred towards rebels. And
Yeah.
so like it's that thing, like which side is good, which side is bad. Like it's
But
it's grayed out a lot.
it's like what Cassian says in Rogue One too. He's like, "Oh, I've done unspeakable things in the name of the rebellion," right? It's kind of that deal. Like he didn't want to shoot, but if he had to, he'd be willing to shoot that kid and that entire family, right? And like the wife didn't do anything wrong, the kid didn't do anything wrong, but they just got caught in the middle, and
Right.
the rebels were willing to execute them because of their cause and their beliefs. So, is that really a good trade-off, or are they just kind of becoming more like the Empire? Although there was a good line in that sequence where they have that exchange where she says, "I'm not going to kill you if you give us what we want." So it kind of shows that they are a little morally superior to the Empire, because the Empire would have just shot them all no matter what, or a lot of them would,
Yeah.
because it's that machine, right? So
Right.
that kind of indicated that the rebels weren't necessarily evil like the Empire was, but it's still, they were willing to do that, even though a couple of them were innocent and just caught in the middle.
Right. Right. And so while there's this standoff of the engineer pointing his weapon at Nemec, the engineer gets shot, and for a second, like, who did it? And then Cinta comes down a ladder and is the one who shot him, which I never understood why in TV shows and in movies, when you're pointing a gun at, like, two people are pointing guns, like if you shoot first, like you win. Like like the bad thing you're trying to stop doesn't happen. So like if Andor shot the guy, the same result would have happened. Now, as for the story, I get it. You got to have the two groups meet, and so
Yeah.
um,
I think
I
I
se-
think
I
I,
select it.
I think they wanted to make Andor out to be a good guy as well. So he really didn't want to shoot, and he was kind of holding off until he had to shoot.
Right, right. And so Cinta comes down, then Val comes down, and then that's when they kind of like take over the situation and can take the commandant and is like, what do you guys even want? Like, what are you doing? And she's like, you're going to bring us down to the vault. And he's like, I don't even have access to the vault. Like, like he's just lying. And she's like, we know exactly how it works. We know we need your handprint to open the thing. Like, we got it all figured out. And, like, she's very clear, like, to everyone there, like, this is an all or nothing. Either we win and you lose, or we fail and we die and you win. Like, it's like an all or nothing thing. And it's kind of like yes, she's right, but I think she's also trying to like put fear into everybody, especially since there's a family there. Like she wants the commandant to have a fear for this family's safety. So like
Yeah.
saying these things like either we're all gonna die or we're gonna steal all this money type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think maybe she was bluffing a little too? And like when the guy said, "Oh, I can't help you," she was kind of she might because you saw earlier like their plan wasn't flawless, right? So I wonder if she was bluffing and saying, "Oh, we know you can actually access it," and he just bought what she was selling. Like what?
I
I
I'm fairly confident Gorn gave them the correct details of how it would go down.
yeah.
So like he would know how it's accessed, so he knows that the commandant is lying.
Yeah.
So like I don't think she bought his lies. I think now obviously in any situation you're going to be nervous that something goes wrong. But even like when they get down, he opens up the I don't know, the gate or whatever to the vault. He's like, well, now I can't even do anything. You need a code from the airbase to be sent to open up the locks to take. They're strapping down the credits, and they just blow off the consoles and they open up. But
Yeah.
classic Star Wars, you just blow up a control panel and it does what it wants you to do in that situation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But anyway, while everything is happening, once everything went to crap, like the comms are cut. The device, deactivates all the comms, and so the person on top of the dam is like discovers that the comms are down, and he's kind of like investigating, trying to figure out what's going wrong. Some troopers come from somewhere else and like our comms are down. And like, yeah, what's going on? And so while all this is happening, there's this other story. This comm officer, who were introduced last week in that episode. And then I forget his name.
Corporal something or other.
Yeah, Kim Key or something.
I don't know.
But so he's kind of investigating the comms thing during this whole time. And while he's doing this, he's like, the comms to the air base is to open, which I don't know if that was intentional or not.
I think she said it was because they wanted to listen to see what the Air Force was hearing, and they wanted to communicate with the airbase to make it look like nothing was going on. So they kept it open.
Okay.
But that's kind of what Vel was saying as part of the plan, and then Cinta had to push the button to communicate with the airbase later. I don't think she actually did. I can't remember if she did or not.
Because what happens is the comm guy overhears our rebels on their radio frequency, which I don't know if Val and the team knew that was possible, that the scrambled Imperial equipment would pick up on that, but it did. And so the guy hears like a broken message of like, we've taken control of the vault, we're here, we have 15 minutes or whatever it is. And so then he contacts the airbase and says there's been a breach at the vault. And that's when I think Cinta is at the control panel and the viewing part where like she has to push some buttons. So I don't know exactly what she did. I think she just kind of turned it off, like, okay, we're screwed, so we don't have to listen to this. So she turns it off. I think that's all she did. But the comms guy, he gets the other group of guys that said their comms were down, and they go try to make their way downstairs to the vault. And then I think, I can't remember if it was before or after this, but then Cinta, she turns off all the lights in the facility, which it might have been was supposed to happen anyway to have better viewing of the Celestial event. I'm not sure if that was part of the plan or if she just did it just to like make things harder for the Imperials to see anything.
They might have just done it to make it look cooler too.
Yeah. So when the lights are turned off, Gorn is walking down to the vault to join the crew. And so he's on his way while the other squad of soldiers are coming. And so while this is happening, the soldiers that were down there, they're playing like some board game or card game.
It reminded me kind of of Star Wars poker. And I really liked that moment because it kind of just showed again that they were humans and they didn't necessarily really care about the cause. They just kind of wanted to clock in and out and They
Yeah.
were bored, so they were just doing their thing. And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of what soldiers do, right? If they're bored, they'll play cards or whatever. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So they're playing, and then the squad comes in, like the rebel squad comes in with the commandant to like surprise them. Hey, we're here for an inspection, surprise inspection.
Yeah.
And when they all get stand up and put in a line, then that's when the rebels, they take out their guns, or not take out their guns, but they aim their guns at them and they tell them to get in a line, like, we're taking over. The commandant was like, this is a robbery, like they've already killed one person, they've taken over, they've disabled comms, like this is what's happening. And then so then they make these soldiers unload the vault after it's been opened. And so
Yeah.
for some reason I thought it was going to be like the vault was going to be more easily like unloaded. I didn't think it was going to be like all on like pallet jacks, like pallets, like of them just pulling it out and trying to roll it in.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a flaw in their plan. And part of that was probably they didn't actually really necessarily care about the money, right? They more cared about, we want to get some money, obviously, to fund the rebellion. But most of this is about making a splash and kind of making a fuss and a commotion. So I think that they just didn't really have the resources to fully be able to unload them, and they were more concerned about making that splash than actually the money itself.
Right. But I was like, I still thought like, because like they said like they're gonna steal a whole quarterly pay for the sector. I was like, so they're
Yeah.
gonna take it all. So I was like, I thought it was gonna like slide out and like get like loaded mechanically into the ship. I thought it was gonna be like kind of like one big upload bit or unload into the thing. So
I think that was just a big little thing to kind of show how incompetent the Imperial troopers were still, the guys at the bottom, like just to reinforce that whole stereotype of, oh, the Imperial troopers actually kind of suck. They're not very good. And
yeah,
because they were really struggling there. And I guess they were under pressure too, but you'd think that under pressure they'd perform better. Instead, they just collapsed. So maybe that was the point of having it so difficult to load. Maybe they thought that the Imperials would be better at their job.
maybe. Because like looking at like what they actually were able to take, it seems like, and I'll have to go back and look, but it seemed like there's maybe like 10 or 12 separate stacks of those credit cylinders, and it seems like they got like only like half of one stack. So it's like they only got like 5 or 10% of the whole entire vault.
They were behind schedule though too, right? So maybe
they were like maybe like 5 minutes behind, I think, because when Gorn finally gets down there, I was like, I thought you guys should be fully loaded and ready to take off by now. So they were behind, you're right. And then we find out at the end of the episode that like they had approximately 80 million credits. So I wonder like what their original plan was, if it was more like 250 million credits, if they had more time or something like that. But still definitely a big chunk. I'd be happy with 80 million credits. But.
Oh yeah, me too. I think I'd be set for life.
Yeah. So the commandant, he's also being forced to do work and load up the thing. And so he's really struggling. He's sweating. He's really stressing. And while he's doing some loading, when Gorn arrives, he's kind of like yelling, "You guys should be ready to go by now." The commandant, he doesn't even have to look at him. He just recognizes his voice and realizes he was the mole the whole time. They helped him learn about this, because he had this like shocked look, because he just stands up and turns around and like stares at him like, they're gonna hang you for this type of thing. And Gorn's like, serving under you for 7 years, I should be punished worse than being hanged.
That was cheeky. I think that moment was the moment that made, I think my two favorites in the show so far are Gorn and Cyril. I think they're my two favorites so far. And that moment definitely made me like Gorn a lot more when he said that. And when they discovered, oh, he's the mole. That was pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a cool little tension thing. And then while they're loading for another few more minutes, that squad of soldiers makes their way down, and that comm officer guy like, what's going on down here? And everyone freezes and looks, and everyone's like panic mode. And Gordon's like, you are not at your post, soldier. This is a classified mission. You are not supposed to be here. And he's like so confused because he's looking at what's happening. And obviously, if this was a mission, it would be going more smoothly than being so panic mode down there.
Yeah.
And so then Gordon tells the Commandant, like, tell them that this is the truth. Like, this is our mission and you need to get out of here, because he's kind of hoping that the Commandant isn't going to say anything so that, he would protect his family by not like telling them it's a lie. So, but before he can say anything, he has a heart attack seemingly.
Yeah.
And so then the soldiers, they're like still not believing what's happening, and then the shootout happens. And so then
I thought the heart attack and the kind of the scenes where they showed the Commandant getting bigger was really interesting, considering that Cassian, and I think it was episode 3, said, oh yeah, all they do is sit back and get fatter and they're so happy and content with themselves. And I didn't think they'd actually show a scene that somebody dies because they'd gotten overweight, but then sure enough, they actually put something like that into the show. And I was kind of taken aback. I was like, whoa, I didn't think they were actually going to do that. I thought that was just going to be a line from Cassian, but it shows the imperial privilege, I guess, especially for the officers.
Yeah. And so, and then even like earlier on in the episode, when the Commandant is telling the engineer about how they manipulate the Donnie people, like when they're done, they both drink something at the same time. Like,
yeah,
like it was very like formalized. Like they just did it in synchronization. Like this is just a system that we do, but it's also like you said with Cassian saying they're just fat and satisfied. Like they're just so confident that they're just drinking on the job. Like they're so confident. Yeah. And so I thought that was just kind of an interesting imagery of them just drinking something at the same time when they are done talking about their oppressive plans.
Yeah. It kind of shows that they're a part of a system again too, right?
Yeah. And so
they're just cogs in the machine.
Yeah. So then also so then we're just in the middle of a firefight between both sides, and so it's super intense. And interestingly, someone you may not have seen in the background was there. Lucy was there, and she has a special message because she was in the middle of that firefight. So let's take a message from Lucy.
Hey everyone, fictional Lucy here. If you're wondering what all that shooting is in the background, that's because I'm in a laser battle. So I need you to hear this very important message. You see, I'm from the Voicemail Cinematic Universe, which is an original Star Wars audio drama created by Empire Radio fans through voicemails. This battle is really intense, but you can't see the true drama of it since this is just audio. That's what I need your help with. You need to illustrate the VCU. That's right, I need a picture to go along with every voicemail in this story. Any type of media, Lego, painting, digital, anything. Just go into the description of this episode and find a link that takes you directly to a Google Doc. It'll tell you exactly how to submit your work. So please, start illustrating and get me out of this mess. I really hate this guy, but in the words of Emperor Palpatine, do it.
All right, thank you, Lucy. And hopefully you got out of this base on Eldani in time. But yes,
fingers crossed.
Yes. So if you are an artist, we definitely need your help. And our guest tonight, Brady, he was one of the contributors to the Voicemail Cinematic Universe, the VCU. He had some great characters. I think
Sadly, I'm not a good artist, so I'd probably just end up drawing stick people, and I don't think you guys want that.
Well, I'm sure you got some friends probably that are artists. You could recruit them to.
Oh, I've tried a couple times.
And they,
Hopefully, maybe they'll change their minds.
well, maybe you gotta let them hear the voicemails
Oh, true.
to do
Yeah.
it, because I think only um, one of your voicemails has been illustrated so
Okay.
far. I think it was Jazz in the Discord. Because she pops
Oh, was
in
that
here.
was that the one where it was like the scene where Palpatine kept getting interrupted? 'Cause
Yeah.
he was getting called to everyone? Yeah.
Yeah. So Jazz, if you're listening, submit more, because your one that you sent was really great. So
That was really great.
That
Gave me a
was-
nice chuckle.
yeah, so it was really funny. She put her own little joke in there too. But if you were listening and you want to see this image, you gotta submit your art so I can finish this project. Because once I'm gonna wait as long, if it takes 10 years to illustrate this, we're gonna wait 10 years. So the faster you send in your art, the better chance you're gonna see this in your lifetime. So
Yeah.
because we still
Boss.
got like 60 to go or some. So
Boss Nass is waiting.
yes, I really want to see someone's Boss Nass drawing. But yes, so anyway, they're in the middle of the firefight in the vault, and people are getting shot, like soldiers are getting shot. And so I have to go back because I didn't see it. I've watched the episode twice, and then I watched one YouTube channel do a reaction to it. So I think there's a scene when Val is pinned down behind like a console or something. I think
Yep.
just before she goes behind that console, I think Gorn is shot and is killed. And
Oh.
then when she's hiding behind that, that's when Terriman says to Skeen, cover me so I can get to Val. And then Terriman, when he runs out, like Skeen is giving him cover at first. He kills a guy,
Yeah.
but then he goes back in the corner. So I think, foreshadowing, like Skeen at the end of the episode, he wants to betray everyone and take the money for himself. I
Yeah.
think he purposely stopped covering Terriman so that Terriman would get shot and die, so he would get a bigger cut when he wants to steal. Because obviously, if everyone survives, it's going to be harder for him to steal it. So more people that die, the better for him to steal. And so
I saw that in the Discord too, and I hadn't thought of that first run through. I thought he just got distracted or something, but that makes a lot more sense. And I also didn't see Gorn get shot, but I would think that they would kind of make that a front and center thing because he's one of the main characters.
yeah, so
But
I'll have to go back, but he didn't make it on the ship. So
yeah,
I think
maybe the because I know in Kenobi we saw the Inquisitors hang that Jedi in the streets. Maybe something similar, because they did say, oh, you'll be hanged for this. Maybe they'll actually dive a little deeper into that and show it later, because it is a more mature show, right? So maybe they wanted to keep him alive to show his death later.
He could still be alive. Like, I wonder, because there were still troopers there's probably like 3 or 4 troopers left down there when the ship escaped. Like, they were still trying to shoot him. So there were definitely survivors. So if Gorn is alive, well, you got witnesses to say that he was a rebel.
Yeah,
and he was the mole.
And if the Commandant wakes up later too, then he'll definitely be in big trouble.
Right. And so I hope we see Gorn I wish, like you said, I see the more darker side of them, maybe doing an execution of a traitor. I really want to see the fallout of things on Eldani to see what that exactly looks like. Because later on in the episode, obviously, the whole entire Senate and IASB, they find out about this right away. So, hopefully we don't just only look at that side. I hope we go back to Eldani and see more of the fallout on the site. But we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the creators did say that they weren't going to be jumping planets a lot. So I'm guessing that eventually they'll probably end up back on Aldhani doing something. Either that or they'll end up in the corporate district. I can't remember what the system was called.
The Morlana system.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so the group escapes. So Terramin and Gorn are killed, assumingly
Yeah.
they're both dead. But Cinta is left behind,
Yeah.
and so
So one thing there too, I don't know, because Vel specifically asks Cinta, "Oh, are you going to be okay?" Kind of like they had an understanding that it might go awry and she might have to leave, and so Vel left and Cinta stayed behind. So I think that was kind of part of a contingency plan. Maybe that's why they go to Aldani to pick her up again. I said this after the last episode, but I got even more vibes this episode. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that Cinta and Vel, they might try to be teasing a little bit of a relationship there. It's either that or they just have very good sisterly type bonds.
yes.
It's one of the two. I don't know.
So
Maybe we'll see.
So last episode, like everyone was saying that they were a romantic couple. Like that went over my head. And looking back at people's explanation for, like, I guess I could see why some people would say that. But I think when Val and Cinta separated, Val like put her hand on Cinta and squeezed, and like you said, it's like are you gonna be okay, type of thing. So like with that, I guess felt like yes, it was more like there's a romantic couple. I thought that maybe if it was a romantic couple, they would have kissed. But they didn't. But
they just might not have wanted to be super public about it, right? Because that's kind of what it seems to be like in the background, right?
They're already taking over the whole thing. Like,
yeah,
I think them kissing is the least of their worries in the scheme of things. But so I think after this episode, it was confirmed that they are a romantic couple.
I guess we'll find out. I'm sure they'll explain it later, like what their relationship is.
Yeah, because I think we are going to go back to Aldani because we've seen in the trailer a scene where Cinta is looking up and a Star Destroyer is coming by. So like I think like because we see later in the episode Cinta, she leaves the facility and she joins the group watching the celestial event, the Eye. And so like she's escaped. And so we know that. So I think she goes back to their camp to like wait maybe or hide for like maybe part of the mission was to come back for her eventually. And so like I don't think that story is done. I think we're going to see more of Cinta, and I think her and Val are going to meet up again, or Val's going to try and go back to save her somehow. Or we don't know if Cinta still has more of a mission to do in the aftermath of the mission, like if there's more stuff that she has to complete. So
I didn't thought about that, but that would make sense too.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of stuff that they could do with Cinta while she's still on that planet. So looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
But
it might be kind of a Boba Fett thing too, where she becomes part of the tribe.
I was thinking that it would have been cool if one of the people in the group was a Donnie person that helped them. I thought that would have been really cool if they added that. But I guess not. Like maybe they'll take her in because maybe she'll try and convince the Donnie people to say, hey, like I'm on your side. I want to help you fight type of thing. But I don't think the Donnie people are a fighting people. I think they're very peaceful people. So who knows how that's going to play out, but I'm excited to see how that goes. But yes. So anyway, back to the ship. They Star Wars, they punch it. they go for it. And when that happens, everything that's not tied down inside the ship shifts back with the speed. And so the first thing you see is, well, we did miss this, that Cassian has a fight one-on-one in the cockpit with a guy and almost gets choked out. And then Nemec saves him by shooting the guy. So that body is in the cockpit. So when he punches it, that body goes flying back into the back of the ship. I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. But then, but then the credits that are not all the way back, they shift to all the way back, and then Nemec gets smashed between them. And
Yeah.
when I was watching this, I yelled like, oh shoot! Like
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh.
he got hit really hard, and
Yeah.
immediately he's like, I can't feel my legs. I'm like, oh no, this is not good. Like Nemec's my favorite. Like I did not want him to get
Yeah.
hurt or die. But like, so he's injured, and Val and Skeen are trying to help him. But Cassian, he's flying the ship, and he's like, I need coordinates. I need to know what vectors to go on to get out of this ship because they're flying now through the celestial event.
Yeah. And the ties are after them too.
Yep. So that while this is having a tie, the 3 ties are on their way to chase, and so Val has like a some sort of medical thing to
Yeah.
like
So
give him a boost of energy or something. I don't know exactly.
those things are in a lot of the Legends video games. I know in KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, they have a lot of them. They've either got they've got the med packs which you use to heal, but they've also got these things called adrenal spikes, which they put into you and it pumps adrenaline through your veins. That one was, I'm guessing, kind of just like a medical spike where it maybe healed him. Maybe it was meant to be an adrenal spike where it got his adrenaline going, so he stayed alive longer. I don't know, but they were in a lot of the games.
Right. And so
Yeah.
whatever it was to help him stay awake and bright to give the coordinates because he still needs to use that navigation device to navigate through this celestial event. So tells Cassian to pull up to basically fly through the celestial event. Like you need to get this vector to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so he has to go through the celestial event, the eye, and then while it's having the 3 ties are chasing, and Nemec is yelling out different coordinates and vectors that Cassian has to change to. And so the first tie, like rocks basically just go through the glass and cause him to explode. And then once Cassian gets through the top of the celestial event and is in the open space, the last 2 TIE fighters, one gets hit by one of the comet things and then crashes into the other TIE. And so then they're free to go. And so Nemec, he kind of gets knocked out. So he's not even awake anymore, but he's still alive.
Mhm.
And so Val, I was kind of confused. Val wanted to just go to the rendezvous point, and not save Nemec. I think there's implying.
I think she thought if we stop, the imps are going to be following us, so we're going to be in trouble and they're going to get us. And she just wanted to get away to protection. I think that's what they were trying to say. And Cassian, because Nemec saved his life, so he wanted to save Nemec's no matter what the risks of being followed. Yes. I think that's what they were trying to get at.
Something like that, because I think, because I'm assuming that where they went for the because they said there's a doctor nearby that's for a contingency plan if something bad goes. So I think it's implying that the doctor was on a moon of that planet, because when we go to that, or we see a big planet in the background in the horizon of where the doctor is. So I'm assuming that the contingency plan is the doctor is on a local moon very close by, and that's what Val didn't want to stop at because it was so close. Because she wanted to completely leave the system and get to wherever the rendezvous point is when their mission is done. But doing so for sure make Nemec die. But Skeen convinces Andor that we can make it to the doctor, so they go to the doctor.
I like the doctor because it was Maz Kanata's species, I think.
No, because it had 4 arms.
Oh, that's true. But it looked like her though, the same face.
Yeah, I did think they looked very similar. The same skin color, same wrinkles, had the goggles on.
Yeah.
But then it had he had I don't even know what it's like. There's the Lobot guy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't forget what that
Like an implant?
like that implant, but I forget like what those people are called. Like people who get those
Oh, cyborgs?
cyber. Is that what
I
they
I
are?
I don't know. I don't think it's ever described in Star Wars, but like that's kind of the
Yes.
general idea.
So like he just obviously he wasn't a lobot guy, a cyborg like that. I guess just whatever he had on, but
Yeah.
I guess I did think he looked like Maz Kanata, but he had 4 arms. So
Maybe the men have 4 arms and the woman only have 2.
maybe
Who knows?
maybe we guys go back and see if there's like a picture of Maz on the wall, like it's his sister or something. But yeah, so the doctor, he's doing surgery on Nemec, trying to save him because he's been paralyzed. So he's doing surgery on Nemec's back.
Mm.
So while that's happening, um, Andor and Skeen are out there talking. And I believe they are, I can't remember, but I think they're drinking some hot beverages. And so when you're
Maybe it's some of that Resnog that Andor was talking about earlier in the first episode.
maybe, but I think it might be probably coffee or tea, possibly from Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea, our sponsor.
Right.
And so let's hear a little commercial break from Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea if you want a little discount on some top-notch coffee.
Hey everyone, Andrew here. I'm pleased to tell you that the sponsor of today's episode is Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea. If you don't know anything about Wesley Andrews, you definitely should. They're an award-winning coffee roaster and shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they make fantastic coffee. The awesome thing is that whether you live in the Twin Cities or not, you can get their coffee beans delivered straight to your door by ordering them online. They even have a subscription service that ensures you never run out of amazing coffee. If you've been looking for some new coffee to try or a way to elevate your normal coffee routine, now's your chance. Head over to wesleyandrews.cc, use the code Empire Radio, that's with a capital E and a capital R with no space at checkout, to get 15% off your first purchase of any bags of coffee or a coffee subscription. I can't think of a better deal. Get 15% off some great coffee, support a small business, and support your favorite Star Wars podcast. In the words of Emperor Palpatine, do it.
Do it.
Oh, you guys are lucky because you have Emperor Palpatine right here from the VCU, and he would tell you to do it. He's still on vacation though, so
Still on vacation? Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right, cool. So yes, Skeen and Andor are outside in like a hot grassy area talking about what went down, and then he looks over at the ship and he's like, how much do you think we got in there? And it's like, give or take 80 million credits. And he's like, that comes out to about 40 million credits for each of us. And he's like, Andor, now he's in kind of like uneasy, panic mode. Kind of like, he's really like, oh crap, what's going down now? And he's like, Skeen is like, I need a pilot. Like, I can't fly that ship, but you can. So just you and I, we could just run over that ship right now and take off. We each have $40 million, and I'd forget who you are, Andor. You never have to worry about me. And Andor's like, you're not doing this for the rebellion. You do this for yourself. He's like, no, I'm a rebel, but like it's me against everyone.
Yeah.
And Andor's like, well, but your brother, I don't have a brother. So he lied about his background.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was implying that he lied about his background, or maybe he was just kind of saying like, my brother's dead, there's nothing I can do. I couldn't tell which one it was.
I think it's supposed to imply that he lied. I think that's the easiest reading of or understanding of that. But it could go like the other way where he's like, my brother's dead, so it doesn't matter anymore type of thing.
And that whole conversation kind of, I think it was really interesting because it made Cassian look in the mirror a little bit and see like, this is how they perceive me. And I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And I think that was kind of his character's turning point. So we'll see him be a lot more committed in the future.
Right. And so while Skeen is trying to convince Andor to do this, Andor just shoots him.
Cassian shot first.
He did shoot first. Good job. And so that was a shock. Like, I didn't expect that. Like, I thought they would have like gotten in a fist fight or something, and Val would have ran out to like break him up and ask what's going on. But Andor just felt like, if I say no, he's gonna kill everyone here anyway. So
It kind of reminded me of that scene at the end of Solo where Han ends up actually shooting first and killing what was the mentor's name?
Beckett.
Beckett. Yeah, Tobias Beckett. And he just kind of shoots Beckett right there before Beckett has the chance to do anything else.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of that.
So
The
that
whole
was
episode the whole episode actually kind of gave me Solo vibes now that I'm thinking about it. A lot darker, but like when they were flying through the eye, it kind of reminded me of when they were going through the maw and the black holes in the Kessel Run. And the whole kind of double crossing, who's double crossing who, again, same deal. It really reminded me of Solo, but done in a much better fashion, I think, and a lot darker too, tone wise.
Right, definitely. So after Cassian shoots Skeen, it goes back into the hut where the surgery is going on, and the surgery is done, but it's done because Nemec died, and the doctor's like, I did all I could do, and he covers Nemec with the blanket or whatever, a sheet, and so that's happening. But then Andor walks in with the pistol drawn, and the doctor thinks like it's for him for failing. He's like, I did all I could, but then Val's like, it's not for you, it's for me. And she yells for Skeen, and he's like, Skeen's dead. He was gonna steal the money. And she's like, I don't believe you. Like, you're lying. You're the one stealing it. But he's like, no, I just want to take the ship of the doctor, who's like, I'll give you 30,000 credits. Like, that's more than twice as much as what it's worth. Here, take the crystal, give it back to your employer. I'm going to take my cut, which is 200,000 credits, and you can have the rest. And so, like, when he said that, she believed him, I believe. I think. And they part ways. And so I don't know. I'm assuming she knows how to fly the ship.
Well, it was I don't know. I was more focused in that scene on when she gave him Nemec's manifesto. Again, it kind of reminded me of Solo, where Nemec's dead, L3 died, but they put her into the computer and she lived on in a way. Nemec's still living on in the way of giving his manifesto and his ideas to Cassian, who ultimately incorporates them into his life and becomes a rebel for the cause, as we see in Rogue One.
I wonder if he's going to keep that manifesto to himself, or if he's going to give it to Mon Mothma or Luthen to a bigger circle of rebels. Because we know there's a circle of people that Mon Mothma and Luthen are part of that are planning and doing the whole rebellion thing. And so, like, I wonder if he's going to pass that on. It'd be really cool if the bigger circle of people learn from Nemec.
Yeah,
because I really like Nemec. I really like what he has to say, his ideas, and so to see, like, even it'd be interesting if, like, there's something like we see like Mon Mothma reading it, and then like she reads something that maybe she like quotes in like episode 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
like, it would be cool if there was something said in the original trilogy by a rebellion leader that was from Nemec's manifesto. Like, that would be so cool.
It would also be really interesting to see too how it has different impacts on people, kind of like you see political philosophy in real life have very different impacts on different groups of people. Like, say Mon Mothma says, oh, we got to do this the peaceful way. This is what Nemec is trying to say here. And then Saw Gerrera reads it, for example, and he says, no, this is what he's trying to say. We have to do this violently. So we liberate all these people. And they kind of clash on that too. But it's the same piece of work. It's just completely different interpretations. And that causes some disunity. It'd be interesting to see.
Puzzler in the chat says, Nemec's manifesto better say rebellions are built on hope.
Mm,
That would be cool.
it would be.
If he says that, that would be cool. That's all I need. Puzzler, you're right. If that just says that, that's all I need. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. That was Jyn Erso's bedtime story.
Funny. So yeah. So that's then Cassian, he leaves, and now we know somehow Cassian gets reconnected with the rebellion. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming, Luthen, he's really good at tracking people and getting information. So I'm assuming Luthen finds Cassian next episode or something like that. And we know that Cassian is going to go back to Ferric because he said to his friend, I'm going to find a way to come back. And so I think we could be back on Ferric next arc. I'm assuming that there's going to be another 3-episode arc. So because there's still a lot of stuff from the trailer on Ferric that we haven't seen, with troopers arriving. We still have it. In the trailer there's clone troopers, and so we don't know if there's. Some people are thinking that clone troopers are still being used, like very sparingly, like a small group of clones are still being used.
Maybe it's like the commandos or something like that. I know they don't have the armor, but maybe they just kept them around because
Right.
they were the best of the best, right? And gave them different armor.
Right. So there's still a lot to see on Ferric. So I think we'll see Cassian on Ferric next episode.
Do you think Cyril will return to Ferric too?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely. I think next episode is next arc is when we're gonna see a focus on his decision and how he's gonna do things, because like we know that the buyer in Luthen's store says like this rebel event on Aldhani is all over the news. So I'm pretty sure Cyril or his, I call him Karn because that's his last name. But like,
Yeah.
Karn, he's gonna maybe connect a dot. Maybe he's gonna have a theory based on that. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's a random connection, but I think he's gonna hear about this event, and that's gonna cause him somehow to jump back into the game in a sense. And so,
Yeah. My one friend and I were talking, and he said he thinks that he might end up being a death trooper eventually by the end.
Karn.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
that would be pretty cool. I'd like to see that. Maybe I think it's a bit of a stretch, but it would be really interesting to see.
I hope we see Death Troopers in this show. That'd be cool. I don't know if we see them in the trailer or not. I can't remember.
I don't think so, but if Krennic shows up, we'll probably end up seeing them.
Definitely.
Oh, they are in the trailer?
No, I'm saying definitely. Like, if Krennic shows up, we'll see him.
No. Puzzler was saying they're in the trailer.
They are. Okay, then.
I trust you.
Well, we trust the puzzler. But yeah, so that's how Andor's story ends in this episode. But after this, we see we go to the ISB, where like all the sector like command, I don't even know what their titles are, colonel, lieutenants, or moffs or whatever, but they're all in the room with all these other people. Like there's like 2 or 3 times more people in that room than when we saw it the first time around. And the main guy, what's his name?
Major something or other.
I have it written down somewhere. Partagaz. That's the main guy. He was like, I need everyone to have reports by midnight tonight. You need to call your family and your teams. Like, you're going to be here indefinitely until we get this all figured out. So all hands are on deck to figure out what happened on Aldhani. And I think this is when Dedra, the woman, is going to, this is her time to shine. She's going to be able to connect these dots with all these other things that she has been seeing. This is because part of Graz is like, you need to have concrete evidence of a rebellion. And boom, there we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't get more concrete than this. So I think she's going to really step up in this next few episodes, and her rival, Blevin, is going to get I think she's going to like paint a floor with him. Like, I think she's going to show him up on how well she can do her job.
Well, I think he's pretty good at his job too. It's just he's a bit of a jerk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see the ISB in panic mode. All hands on deck for that.
Yeah.
And then we go to the Senate.
Oh yes.
Now I was hoping we were to get more from the Senate, and hopefully this is not the only part of the Senate that we see in the show. But Mon Mothma, she is speaking against what happened to the Gorman people.
Yeah.
Which she said, like, the trade routes were cut to them, so now they're starving and they don't have basic needs and all that stuff. So she's trying to speak against what was happened there to try and get aid.
Yeah.
Now, my first time through watching this episode, I was wrong on how I interpreted it, because she started looking around and no one was like paying attention to her. I thought that was because no one cared about what she was saying. But it's because everyone was being alerted of the Eldani thing when I watched it the second time.
Yeah. And you know what I thought was really interesting about the Senate too. I love the Senate scenes. I think they're fantastic. One of my favorite parts of Star Wars for sure, because I just love the prequels. I thought it was a really nice touch that, and I can't remember. I think I might have heard this on Rebel Force Radio a while ago when they were looking at the trailer, and a lot of the Senate seats were vacant. I think that's really interesting because it shows that slowly and slowly and slowly the Empire's figuring out ways to pick up their influence and put their little puppet governments in there, get rid of any illusion of representative democracy, but they're doing it slowly. So the powerful planets still have a lot of... Oh, I thought that... okay, I was just reading the chat there. The powerful planets have a lot of different seats in the Senate. Like we see Mon Mothma and all the other guys look fairly wealthy, but it doesn't look like many of the lower class planets have representation anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and to see if they explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing that in the trailer, that they're empty. What are they even called? Like
pods, seats?
Pods.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing that in the trailer. So it was cool to see how, like, even in this trailer, like this episode, how more few there were than I realized. Like,
yeah,
there was only like probably maybe like 20% of the seats were filled or something. I was really hoping the ET species was still. That would have been so great if they put that in the ET, because it was in episode 1 that they have that.
Yeah,
the ET in the Phantom Menace in the Senate seat, they have the ET species.
You know what I'm hoping for? I'm hoping for a quick little brief Jar Jar cameo, just in the background or something. We see him walking around.
I don't think he's in the Senate, because did you hear what happened in canon though with his story?
Yeah. He everyone hated him after because he helped build the Empire.
Yeah, because he's the one that convinced the Senate to elect Palpatine. Put him in Chancellor. So
I was under the impression though that he would kind of still be in the Senate while the Senate existed. It was just that after the Senate disappeared, that's when people started hating him more.
Yeah, because I think he ends up just becoming a street performer.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But poor Jar Jar.
but I think it would be cool to have a little cameo for him. And on the note of the Emperor too, I'm still hoping that we get to see him. I think that after this big kerfuffle with the little rebel group, either it's going to be Major, what was his name? Pettigras or whatever his name is. Partagras, yeah. Either him, Tarkin, maybe Krennic, or the Emperor is going to address the Senate, and we're going to see that as a big scene in one of the upcoming episodes where they're talking to the Senate about what's going on and what needs to be done. And I think it would be really cool if we see the Emperor addressing the Senate because you remember in Rebels in the last episode when he's trying to seduce Ezra and he puts on like the white grandfatherly robes and he's got the gold and stuff and he just looks like a normal old grandpa. It would be really interesting to see him address the Senate like that, rather than as the dark Palpatine we see in episode 3, kind of trying to paint this image to the galaxy that he's okay and he's recovered and this is who he is, this benevolent guy who just wants the best for everyone.
Yeah, because we get a quick glimpse of that center podium, but it looks like he's not there. I think it's that
Yeah.
the bald woman that's with him in episode 3 that
Oh,
Mon Mothma doesn't like because she was one of the guests at that dinner party that her husband, her name's Sly. Is that her first name?
oh, I don't know. I know the other one's Masamita.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I don't remember her name.
I think her name is Sly or something, and she was one of the guests that her husband invited to that dinner. And
Oh, okay.
she's like one of my enemies. Like she actively, so I think she was the one that was on that center podium, kind of like,
Oh,
kind of like like a press secretary, like we have for
yeah.
our president. Like I think they're called, like they answer all the questions, like just a stand-in.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what she was doing. She just kind of like speaks on behalf of the Senate or on
Oh,
behalf of the emperor.
The Emperor's a busy guy. He's too busy doing Sith stuff.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, so that's the Senate scene, and then we go to Luthen's shop. They're selling some sort of like jewelry to some rich woman, and it's like, oh, you should buy this one. It's a forgotten language that we don't know what it means. She's like, well, I don't like that, but you can make it say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rebellions are built on hope.
something like that. And then while he's helping her, you hear some random voice saying, "Do you have anything from Eldani?" And my heart stopped. I was like, "Oh no!" Like,
Yeah.
something they got found out or something.
I thought it was going to be an ISB guy.
Yeah, that would have been really cool if it was, but it was just
Yeah.
a random guy that was looking at stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a rebellion group hit Eldani, and it's all over the news." And because Luthen was like in panic mode for a second, he's like, "Oh no, like what's happening?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he's like, "I'll go check to see if there's anything in back." And it was funny because the second time I watched with the subtitles, so while Luthen is going into the back, the guy was like, "I was just kidding. I don't actually want something from Eldani." So
Yeah,
that was funny. And then Luthen goes back there and he's happy and he starts laughing like he's excited that the mission was a success. Which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can see into the back from out there. So like the guy probably sees Luthen laughing, and you can probably hear him too. It's not like a closed door. So
Yeah.
but yes, so that's the end of the episode. So
fantastic. That was a great ending.
yeah, definitely a great ending. I think this is definitely 10 out of 10 episode, best episode of the season, one of the best things Disney has put out for a single like thing.
It felt like a finale episode. Like it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here, because it kind of felt, like walking out of The Last Jedi, it kind of felt like the end. It was a similar deal here where I don't know where they're going to go next, and I like that.
Right. And so tons of different avenues they could go. We're now at the halfway mark through the season, and so I'm excited. There's so much more.
I wonder if Colonel Valen Doss will make an appearance with the ISB.
That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. But yeah, any other thoughts before we transition to voicemail time?
I just thought it was a great episode, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't write down a lot of plot points in my notes. I was more looking at the symbolism and the characters, and that's what I like about Star Wars, is it is very rich in symbolism and very rich in character, and it's a lot of real world politics and stuff put into this sci-fi fantasy package that anyone can digest. And this episode was definitely digestible. I know that my dad, so he's watching, he's a huge Lord of the Rings guy, and so he's watching Rings of Power and is really enjoying it, whereas me, I'm kind of having a hard time getting into it. I watched the first episode and I was just like, whoa, this is a lot. And he kind of felt that way with Andor too. He was like, yeah, similar deal. I watched it and I'm kind of like a little confused about what's going on. And I don't know, it doesn't feel super great so far, but I think he'll really appreciate this episode. And a lot of the general audience who comes in and just wants to see blasters and lightsabers are going to love this one too.
Definitely. Yep. Cool.
They really pulled off the James Bond in space this episode, like they
Yeah.
said they were going to.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. All right, cool. I don't have any additional thoughts, so let's transition over to voicemail time.
It's voicemail time.
All right, cool. So, sorry to those listening in the chat right now. You can't hear my soundboard just because we're doing a makeshift live stream on Discord. But yeah, so we have 4 voicemails tonight. And so the first 2 are from Addie. So let's listen to number 1.
Hey, Umpire Radio, it's Addie back at you with another voicemail. I just had this quick question for you. It's October, so you know what that means, Halloween season. So I just had a quick question. What is your favorite kind of candy? Me, personally, is Nerds. I love Nerds. Have been like practically my whole life. Funny story about Nerds. On my 10th birthday, my aunt gave me 10 boxes of Nerds. And
Wow.
let's just say I had a sugar rush for days. Yeah, that was not fun. Anyway, I hope you have an awesome day. May the force be with you. Bye!
All right, thank you, Eddie, for that first question. Halloween month. Brady, what is your favorite candy?
All right. Well, I've always been a huge Skittle guy. I think Skittles are great. Sour Skittles are great. Mike and Ike's are up there too. Those are 2 of my favorites. It depends on the day, honestly, but those are my kind of go-to ones. Also, Padawan Ade, if you're still interested, you can contact me on, I don't know if you have Instagram or not, but let me know if you still want to guest star and collaborate sometime, and I would be 100% down for that. I haven't heard anything from you since that first one, so let me know. But yeah, Skittles are my go-to, and I'm sure your parents were really happy after that Nerds sugar rush.
Now, do you have any like Canadian specific candy?
Oh,
That,
not candy, but ketchup chips are my favorite type of chip.
we used to have those here like 15 years ago, and then no one liked them, and now you can't get them in the United States anymore. So
What about all dressed? Do you guys have all dressed?
I have no
I
idea
don't
what
think
that
so,
is.
right? Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like a flavor of chip where they try and throw all of the different flavors together, and you'd think it sounds gross, but it's actually quite good. It's especially the little Ruffles ones. They're really good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think because you're in Canada, like you have production facilities that make your candy for you up there that is different than here in the United
Oh.
States. Because like I remember when I lived in like 10 years ago, when I lived in Los Angeles for an internship for college, I was there for 4 months. I made a friend there who was originally from Canada, and she went back to Canada for like a quick few days to visit her family, and then she came back and she brought some Oreos from Canada, and they're different than American Oreos.
Oh, interesting.
So they look the same, they have like the same like flavor profile, but the Canadian Oreos, like the cookie part is a little bit thinner, and they're more like crisp, like they're not as soft as American ones, and so it's more of a texture difference. But I was like, dang, this is a little slightly different, because I'm assuming you have different production facilities that have their own processes of making things, kind of like McDonald's all around the world. Like you go to India, they have a completely different menu than they have here in the United States. So it's like,
and you guys don't have Kinder eggs anymore, do you?
Kinder eggs?
Oh, you never had those? Okay, so basically, they're these eggs that you can buy, and they're chocolate eggs, but inside they have a little toy that you kind of can put together.
Oh, maybe we might have something like that. I think
I heard that because people kept like choking on the toys and stuff, they got rid of them in the States.
Maybe. Interesting. All right, cool. So I should answer that question myself, the candy question. Probably Snickers is like a good go-to, or Milky Way, Kit Kat, or Twix. I don't really like like what was it considered, like hard candy, like Jolly Ranchers or
Oh, okay.
anything you have to like suck on for a while. Like I just feel like my teeth are just coated in sugar and like I get like all the cavities. So like I don't usually eat a lot of hard candy, but like chocolate stuff is always pretty good.
So fun fact about me, I've actually never had a cavity before. So I've been lucky.
Oh, fancy guy over there.
My uncle's a dentist though, so that kind of helped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have any teeth care advice for fans out there?
Oh, not much. I just brush my teeth really well, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, thanks, Eddie, for the first question. And yes, nerds they're not my favorite. I do enjoy them. Yeah, I get like a good flavor though. I don't like every flavor, but if I get a good box of nerds, I always enjoy those. So
yeah, me too.
All right, cool. All right, Addie. So let's listen to number 2 from you tonight.
Hey, Empire Radio, it's Addie back at you with another voicemail. Today I'm fulfilling my role as galactic babysitter, and guess who I'm babysitting today? Grogu, don't use the Force! So sorry, he's still getting used to the whole being Force sensitive and stuff. Okay, now you go take a nap, okay? Sorry. So this sprung a question into my head. What is your favorite Star Wars kid or teenager? That could be like Grogu or young Anakin, or it could be a teenager like Ezra or Ahsoka. Anyway, I hope you have an awesome day. May the Force be with you. Bye.
All right, cool. Thank you, Addie. So the question is favorite kid or teenager in Star Wars. I think go-to for this podcast, we gotta go with Broom Kid from episode 8.
Broom Kid, yeah.
Broom Kid. I think what's Anakin's friend?
Oh, Kitster. I love Kitster.
Kitster, he's cool. He's a cool guy.
That's so wizard.
I
was hoping to see Kitster and Kenobi, but I guess not. That would have been so stupid, but really funny.
I thought it was going to be the fake Jedi. I thought that he was from the trailers. I thought he was Kitster.
That would have been really funny.
So what are kids and teenagers do we see in Star Wars?
Oh, we see young Greedo in the Phantom Menace a little bit.
We do, yep.
We see the younglings.
Yeah, Master Skywalker. That's a good kid. You need the Padawan, or not? I guess they're not considered Padawans, but the ones in training in the Clone Wars. Like Ahsoka goes to Ilum with them and helps her find their kyber crystals. Like that group of kids are pretty cool.
There are lots in the High Republic too. If you dive into those books,
definitely.
We've got Cheery from the Thrawn books.
Yes, she's really cool. I really like her, Cheery.
Yeah.
And this isn't, you don't actually see him, but I believe Poe Dameron was born on Yavin during the time of like episode 4.
We also see young Han Solo in one of the old Lego Star Wars specials.
Oh yeah.
I think it was called the Padawan Menace or something like that. And young Han Solo pops up. Yeah.
Funny.
Oh, and then did you ever watch the Freemaker Adventures? They're pretty juvenile, so I don't know. They're like the Lego shows. Yeah, there are lots of kids in those too.
Yeah.
I think I gotta say though, my favorite is probably, so when I was younger, I really liked young Anakin. He was just like the first kid I ever saw my age in a big show like that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I actually wanted to play him. I wished that I'd been around to play him when I was younger. Knowing how he turned out in the end, I'm kind of glad that wasn't my fate, but I feel bad for Jake Lloyd sometimes because he got bullied a lot when he was younger for playing young Anakin. But I liked young Anakin a lot. I think I gotta say Ahsoka though is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
especially growing up.
it's
with the Clone Wars.
it's hard of me to consider like a kid or teenager because she's just so mature and above everybody. It's like she's in a league of her
Yeah.
own. But yeah,
Starting off, she's kind of like, I wouldn't say childish. Oh, Omega! How did we miss Omega? Thank you,
oh yeah,
Puzzler.
Omega, she's the best. She's great.
We also see those little clone cadets in the Clone Wars and young Boba.
Oh, young Boba, yep.
He's pretty cool. I like young Boba a lot.
Yep. And then, but we do know that I believe it's probably late next year. Skeleton Crew, that live action, that's going to be, I believe, like a full cast of kids, young kids and teenagers. So I'm sure we'll, maybe a year from now or whenever that comes out, we could revisit this question and be like, yeah, this new kid here, he's pretty cool or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thank you, Eddie, for your 2 voicemails. Now let's listen to a voicemail from Toby, who sent in his first voicemail last week. And Drew and I were debating whether his accent was from Australia or Britain. I went with Australia. Drew went with Britain. So let's get his response to our question.
Hi, Empire Radio. This is Toby again, sending in another voicemail. To answer your question, I am Australian, so I naturally do abbreviate everything and have a pet koala in the backyard. But anyway, my question of the week is, what is your favorite movie from the 80s? Mine would either have to be Top Gun or The Karate Kid, but curious to listen to your opinion. Yeah, thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you, Toby. And yes, he's from Australia. I got it. I got. I don't got my. I got my button. Yep, I got that. So he said he has. Of course, he has a pet koala in his backyard, so that's pretty cool. But his question is favorite 80s movie. He said Top Gun or Karate Kid.
It's a good question. And also, I'm Canadian, but I do not have a pet polar bear. Just to let you know.
That's disappointing. What about a pet moose? Or
I don't have one of those either. Working on it. No beaver either.
Do you have caribou in Canada?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't have a beaver either, sadly.
Do you have favorite 80s movies?
I got it.
Because you're how old are you?
I'm a Gen Z, 19.
19. Okay, so you probably have seen fewer 80s movies than even me. I haven't seen too many.
Well, I liked his first 2. Top Gun and Karate Kid are both legendary, but I gotta say, tied for my number 1 spot would probably be Karate Kid and Empire Strikes Back. Just because, well, Karate Kid, I'm a martial artist myself. I do Taekwondo. I've done karate in the past. Still do karate a little bit. And it's just always, every time I watch the movie, it gives me the exact same feeling of, whoa, I don't know if he's going to win. It's kind of like, same with Rocky too, same deal. It's like, I don't know if he's going to win, even though I know he's going to win. It just gives me that feeling. It pumps me up every time. So Karate Kid's always been inspiring to me, and it's a fantastic movie. But Empire Strikes Back is Star Wars, so it's gotta take the cake for me, and I enjoy that. Also, Cobra Kai is pretty cool too. I
love Cobra Kai. Drew and I both love that show. I think it's in my top 5 shows of all time. But but as for movies from the 80s, it's kind of hard to say. It's like I was trying to like look up 80s movies. I'm like, which ones are from the 80s and which ones are from like the early 90s? I was like, oh no, where's the line? But like. I would agree. Karate Kid is a good one. You have, I believe, some of the Back to the Future movies are pretty good. You mentioned the Rocky movies, which some of them are really good, some of them are pretty terrible. But like you have like the Goonies.
Okay,
that's a good 80s movie. Big. Have you seen Big? With Tom Hanks.
I haven't seen that. No.
That's definitely a good one. But there's not a lot of 80s movies that I've seen. So it's hard for me to say other than the Star Wars movies. Two Star Wars movies. And I'm sure there's some animated ones that are from the 80s. I think Little Mermaid is from the 80s, but I don't know if I'm a fan of Little Mermaid. But yeah, that's a good question, Toby. Definitely, I'll think about that more. See if I can remember some other '80s movies. But cool. Thanks for sending in a voicemail. Keep them coming, Toby. We love hearing those accents from outside the United States. So,
Oh yeah, bud.
all right. So one last voicemail from Will. So let's take a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio. Will here. Just thought of this randomly. What is your favorite board game? I know. Weird question. Just curious. My favorite is Monopoly. Specifically a Star Wars Monopoly. I have had the experience of playing the Monopoly that's like supposed to be one of the longest games ever or whatever. I think on the box it says, and you thought the original was long. That was an experience that I do not want to repeat, but I still enjoy Monopoly, regardless.
All right, thank you, Will, for that question. Question is favorite board game of all time.
That's a good question. I'd have to. It's a little bit of a thinker for me. I really like Monopoly too. I'd say that's probably the one that I'm most nostalgic for. I played that a lot. I played Sorry a lot when I was younger. We had the Disney version, so that was always a fun one for family board game night. The two though that kind of frequented my teenage years, and I still play a lot with my family when I go visit them back home, is we play Yahtzee a lot, which is always a blast. We always end up yelling really loud. and we play Scrabble a lot. And Scrabble's always fun because it gets to the end and everyone just gets silly and starts putting down these weird words on the board that aren't actually words, and then you look it up and it is a word sometimes, so you get to keep it. But it's really fun. I think my two favorite that I'd say that we play the most often are Scrabble and Yahtzee. Those are the two that I'd say are my favorites.
Cool. I think I hadn't ever really played a lot of board games in my life, but like Scrabble, that's just a go-to. Like everyone plays Scrabble. I like word games like that. I used to play chess a lot in high school. I was never really that good, but chess is always. I can't think three-dimensionally, like where you have to like think like 10 steps ahead. Like I can't do that, so it's like hard for me for that. But I wish I did play a lot more board games. But you just need people to like play board games. You can't just play by yourself. So maybe we gotta figure out how to do like a game night in Discord, like where we all play like the same board game somehow. I don't know how we could figure that out, but that'd be fun as a community to play a game together. But yeah. So, and I think, and Will mentioned that the Star Wars Monopoly, and I believe Drew has talked about that he has that packed away because he likes how the pieces are all like heavy metal pieces. Like they're not like crappy. So like he really likes them, and he's like, there's different features to it. So Drew definitely likes that game.
Oh, I like Risk too. That's a fun one. It's just really long.
Yeah, I've heard. I've never played, but like that, and like what's the other big one? Catan.
Oh yeah, Settlers of Catan. That one's the long one too.
That's the long one too. So I don't know. I've never played one of those because it'll take like 3-4 hours, right? Sometimes to play. Yeah, I don't got time for that.
There was sometimes too. My uncle would have little board game days with some of these kind of more advanced, more adult board games, and they were pretty fun too. I always enjoyed that. We had a campaign in a game. It was a Star Wars game. I can't remember what it was called. It was Imperial something, but that one was really fun. And then I don't know if you've ever played. Well, my friend had a Star Wars D&D campaign going for a while, which he called Ancient Secrets, about a little team gathering a bunch of Sith artifacts, and that was pretty fun. Not really a board game, but I enjoyed that. That's where Valen Doss came from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was my second character in that game. The first one died because I missed a bunch of sessions and I didn't really know what
Oh,
was going on. So I thought it'd be better to join as a new character.
right.
And that character was kind of too silly for the campaign too. It was a more serious tone, and he was just he was an insane Gungan.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, Will. So that's all of the voicemails tonight, just the 4 of those. So let's go over social stuff and we can get out of here. So Brady, you can plug your podcast and your
Ooh.
socials if you'd like.
Yeah, so if you guys want, just go and look up Gungan Grand Army on Instagram and you'll find all of my stuff there. I got my link tree there to my TikTok, Spotify, Anchor, pretty much everything that I've got set up. I don't have everything set up yet, just a few different socials that I actually like using. And actually, I kind of started out as a TikTok and it developed more into the podcast now. So you can go check that out if you want to. Just look up Gungan Grand Army, message me, respond to some of my polls, and I'll talk about your questions there. And that's about it for me. Just look up Gungan Grand Army on Instagram and you'll find my link tree, everything there. And Needlessly Nerdy Network podcast is on there as well. Or podcast network is on there too. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yep. I haven't listened to all your episodes. I listened to some of them. So he has a really good one about the politics of the Phantom Menace. That's a good episode. And I think I listened to another 1 or 2 of them, but
I'll probably upload if I'm going on Sunday alone again. I'll probably do politics of Attack of the Clones next.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure you'll do the politics of Andor when it's all said and done.
Probably. Yeah, because there's a lot going on there, that's for sure.
Yep. All right, cool. So if you want to get connected with Empire Radio, there is a link in the description of wherever you're listening to right now. Links.co/Empire Radio, and there's a link to our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel if you want to watch the video versions of this. Twitch for when we do live streams when Drew's actually here. And also there's the link for our fan email for the VCU Illustration Project if you're an artist, and then the needlesslynerdy.com podcast network link is there as well, which Brady is the newest member of that network. He was just in the past week, right?
Yeah, officially.
I think last week we were like, we think Brady's in, but he's not official. He hasn't signed the paperwork, so we're not going to name him by name, but Brady is part of that network now. So one of the reasons why Brady is hosting tonight is because he's part of the network, and I needed someone to fill in for Drew, so I got plugged in on the network, and I was like, hey, when do you guys want to join me? And Brady was more than willing to help. So thank you to Brady. Go check out his podcast. Go support him. He's great. And so, yeah, I think that's everything for us.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you too so much for having me on. It was a pleasure. Always wanted to do this, and it's great that we finally got a chance to. I also wish Drew the best in the coming weeks and praying for him and his family. That's it's tough, but hopefully he gets through, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm sure we'll have you on sometime in the future, or maybe we could be on your podcast. It'd be cool to do that. Collabs are always fun. Now that we're got more people in this network, we can do more collabs. Cool. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's everything for me. Just thank you so much.
All right, no problem. No problem. All right. Well, you've been listening to another Wizard episode of Empire Radio. I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Brady /Boss Nass /Palpatine, etc.
And may the Force be with you. Stay always.
Always.
Yeah. All right. Bye.